Welcome back to A320 Knowledge, your trusted source for Airbus expertise. Today, we're diving into part 5 of our masterclass on low visibility operations. In today's tutorial, we'll explore the following: how to set the aircraft up for a low visibility approach, the complete task sharing sequence for both pilots during an autoland, and the A320's specific system capabilities that enable low visibility operations. Stick around, as this will likely be the most useful tutorial you've seen yet. Let's break down each stage of the autoland task sharing sequence, along with the standard calls associated with them. Before the approach, the LS push buttons are selected on the FCU. The glide slope and localizer deviation scales will now be displayed. The two deviation scales comprise of small white circles, either side of a yellow reference line in the lateral and vertical azimuth. When a valid signal is received, the course deviation indexes are displayed, using magenta diamond symbols. When a deviation index is out of the displayed range, only half a symbol appears at the end of the scale. When cleared to intercept the localizer push button is pressed and will arm a localizer intercept and display lock blue on the FMA. Once cleared for the approach push button is pressed and will arm both the localizer and glide slope intercept at the same time. This will either display GS and lock blue together, or GS blue and lock/lock star if the localizer has already been intercepted. By 1,000 feet, the aircraft must be fully configured for landing. All ECAMs must be complete. The landing capability must be checked, and any decision height must be amended as required. Finally, the RVR must be checked with air traffic control to ensure it is sufficient to complete the approach. Below 800 feet, the landing inhibit memo appears, which signifies that only the most serious of ECAMs will be displayed to the flight crew. Below 700 feet, the data from the FMGC is frozen, such as the ILS course and frequency, and the data in the approach performance page. Below 400 feet, the FCU will be frozen, and the only way to change an active FMA mode would be to either turn both autopilots or flight directors off, or initiate a go-around. By 350 feet, GS and lock is replaced by the land FMA. CM1 announces it, and CM2 replies, checked. This indicates the system is autoland capable and ensures the correct final approach guidance by checking there is no more than 5 degrees difference between the final approach track and the ILS course. The crew must check the inbound course is accurate to ensure the aircraft will be aligned correctly during the flare. If land is not displayed by 350 feet radio altitude, then an audio triple click will be heard and the FMA will change to display Cat 1, which will indicate that an autoland is now not possible. After the land FMA is displayed, CM2 now takes over all FMA announcing duties. Below 200 feet, the red autoland light is armed. At the alert height of 100 feet, CM2 announces 100 and CM1 replies with continue. At approximately 40 feet, the flare FMA should become active and CM2 will announce it. The aircraft will track the localizer center line with steering commands sent to the rudder. If flare does not appear on the FMA, a go-around must be performed if visual references are insufficient for a manual landing. At approximately 30 feet, the thrust idle FMA should become active. Below this height, CM2 should be monitoring the radio altimeter and retard auto callouts, whilst CM1 should be monitoring the thrust reduction and flare through the flight instruments. Once the main landing gear touches down, CM1 selects the desired amount of reverse thrust. After touchdown, CM2 should monitor the following parameters and call them when they see them: rollout, spoilers, reverse green, brake low or medium, decel, and 70 knots. When the aircraft slows below 100 knots, the steering is controlled by nose wheel steering commands. A green yaw bar is displayed to allow crews to manually track the localizer during rollout in the event of an autopilot failure. If automatic rollout control is not satisfactory, The autopilot should be disconnected immediately. Before 20 knots is reached, CM1 must disengage the auto brake, and by the end of the rollout, they must stow the reversers. At an appropriate point, CM1 disconnects the autopilot to take manual control of the aircraft to exit the runway. Here is some additional information on the Autoland ILS approach. The Flight Management and Guidance System, FMGS, is responsible for intercepting and following the ILS course guidance. This can happen in two ways, either by selecting an ILS approach directly from the flight plan page or by manually entering a valid ILS frequency and course in the radio navigation page if the approach isn't available in the nav database. A key point to remember is that if the magenta diamond for the glide slope isn't displayed, the FMGS will disregard the ILS glide slope signal entirely. The aircraft cannot intercept the glide slope before capturing the localizer, but it can intercept it from above. On Airbus aircraft, when both the glide slope and localizer signals are active, the approach will always terminate in an autoland unless the crew takes manual control. The minimum RVR required to land isn't just about visibility. It also depends on the ability to keep the aircraft straight on the runway, which relies on rollout guidance and rollout control. Rollout guidance is provided by the autopilot flight director system using localizer signals, ensuring the aircraft remains on the center line. Rollout control is achieved using the rudder at high speed and nose wheel steering as the aircraft slows down. For a Category 3B fail operational autoland, a functional nose wheel steering system is essential. If nose wheel steering fails, or if the anti-skid and nose wheel steering systems are intentionally switched off, the required RVR increases from 75 meters to 125 meters. The FMA will indicate that an automatic landing is permitted if the aircraft is in config 3 or full with Cat 2 or better displayed. Additionally, the glide slope angle must be between 2.5 degrees and 3.15 degrees. The airfield elevation cannot exceed 2,500 feet. The aircraft's landing mass must be below maximum landing weight, and the runway must not be contaminated. These conditions ensure that the Autoland system operates safely and effectively under low visibility conditions. Our popular A320 tech quizzes are now part of an exclusive newsletter membership designed to provide you with even more value. As a member, you'll receive 4 brand new A320 tech quizzes every month, one each Monday, delivered straight to your inbox. You'll also receive exclusive deep dives into A320 systems, procedures, and techniques that go beyond this YouTube content. And you'll also gain access to bonus content and other surprises to keep your knowledge fresh and up to date. If you're interested, click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to sign up today. Thanks for tuning in, and let's take your A320 knowledge to the next level.